Wow. First things first, I have to say, before I start this video, I got to give a shout out to Strictly Boxing News. If you haven't checked this channel out, check it out. Share, subscribe to his content because he puts out great information. Now, I find this very, very laughable. Okay? And this list before you, as you can see, is the top pound for pound best fighters of all time. And this is rated by Boxrec. Okay, now I'm going to go down the list of the top 20 fighters. I know I didn't highlight the other 4 fighters on the screen right here, but I'm going to go down to the top 20 anyway. Then I'm going to go ahead and assess my opinion on this situation and my critique. So, number 1, you have Floyd Mayweather Jr. That's right. They have Floyd Mayweather Jr. ranked number 1 pound for pound best fighter of all time. And he's ranked above Archie Moore, Sugar Ray Robinson, Manny Pacquiao. And Manny Pacquiao is rated higher than Bernard Hopkins, Muhammad Ali, Julio Cesar Chavez Sr., Evander Holyfield, Joe Louis, Roy Jones Jr., Vladimir Klitschko, Azuma Nelson, Harry Greb, Roberto Duran, Carlos Monzon, Carlos Ortiz, Emil Griffith, Benny Leonard, Jose Napoles, and Oscar De La Hoya. Now, do you have any idea who was left off this list? Can you think of one common name that's left off this list that many would consider as probably the greatest fighter of all time? Many. Just think about that for a minute. Just let it marinate and let it sink. Now, if you don't know the answer to that question, I'll tell you who it is. And that answer is Sam Langford. Okay? And who else is left off this list besides Sam Langford? You also have Henry Armstrong, and you also have Jack Johnson. You have Sammy McVeigh, you have Joe Gans, and you have Barbados Joe Wilcott. So the question is that how does Boxrec actually measure these fighters' greatness? I mean, to me, based off this ranking system that they have here, based off the pound for pound best fighters of all time, they literally do this based off popularity, based off the fighters that they actually know, whoever is ranking them. Kind of very similar to ESPN's top 25 pound for pound best fighters of the last 25 years, and they have Gennady Golovkin and Roman Choctaclito Gonzalez ranked pound for pound best in the last 25 years. Well, I beg to differ on that because, if anybody need to be ranked on that list for the last 25 years, it should have been Carl Froch and Costa Tszyu, because those guys are far more accomplished than Gennady Golovkin and Roman Gonzalez at this point. But, credit to 78 Sports TV actually brought up a point about this. The reason why they rank those fighters in here is based off projection. So that could be a possibility why they ranked them in top 25 best of the last 25 years. But needless to say, it also doesn't rule out the fact that these guys are popular. So they do it based off popularity. And Costa Tszyu and Carl Froch were not popular when it comes to to a certain extent. Carl Froch was popular in his home, in the UK. Costa Tszyu wasn't really much of a popular fighter, even though he was a very dominant fighter, one of the best light welterweights of all time. So, yeah. Anyhow, I'm getting off topic a little bit. But here's what I find laughable, the fact that they have Floyd Mayweather ranked pound best fighter of all time. Ranked above Sugar Ray Robinson, Archie Moore, Muhammad Ali, God rest his soul, who just passed, and Evander Holyfield and Joe Louis. Now, I've already established the point why Evander is greater than Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. Okay, I don't need to go back to that argument. We all know why Evander should be ranked higher than those two guys, and so is more so than Bernard Hopkins. But the fun thing I find laughable here is the fact that people who would say that Floyd Mayweather, and I have to say this, guys, I know I got some guys out that I know very well. There's some cool cats, and they admire Floyd Mayweather very much. But we got to call out the bullshit for what it is, man. This is bullshit. There's no way in hell that Floyd Mayweather is ranked pound for pound best of all time by most people. We all know that. Okay, let's go down. Let's break down the statistics here. Okay, for one, first things first. Some would say, well, yeah, Floyd's undefeated. Yeah, well, there are many fighters that went undefeated, including Savin Akting and Rocky Marciano. And let's talk about Savin Akting for a second. Okay. Savin Akting is a German fighter who fought at super middleweight, okay? He retired with a record of 34-0, with 6 KOs, right? He holds the super middleweight record with most consecutive title defenses at 21. All right, 21 consecutive title defenses. At the time, he beat the likes of Brian Mitchell and Robin Reed, who Joe Kawasaki beat at one point of his career. All right. Now, even though Joe Savasky didn't fight, the top echelon fighters of his division at the time, he fought whoever he could fight. But the fact is that despite what he has accomplished in his career, Savasky was never a linear champion. He was never the recognized champion in his division for numerous reasons, number one. Number two, you can't say that what he's accomplished is nowhere near greater than what Andre Ward has accomplished, what Carl Froch has accomplished, or nor is Joe Kawasaki has accomplished. Could you honestly say that Savasky is greater than those three guys? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Okay? So why would you say that Floyd Mayweather is greater than Archie Moore, Muhammad Ali, and Sugar Ray Robinson, or Evander Holyfield? I know some are going to say, well, Floyd's undefeated. As I mentioned already, there's many undefeated fighters like Marquise Marciano and Savasky, or Joe Kawasaki by that matter, but that doesn't mean they're greater than the other fighters that I've mentioned, right? He holds the most, he's the highest grossing, he holds a record for the most pay-per-view revenue and the he holds a record for the most money processed at the gate. Okay, before that, Sugar Ray Robinson held that record, okay, as the most gross fight, the most mostly gross fighter at the gate, all right? After Sugar Ray Robinson was Muhammad Ali. After Muhammad Ali was Mike Tyson. Now, the difference between Muhammad Ali and Tyson and Sugar Ray Robinson is that Tyson, yes, he fought the best that he could fight, but in the division where it was very, very not so competitive. It wasn't the top echelon fighters. Now, though Tyson was dominant that he was in the 80s, and he was the highest grossing fighter at the time. He broke the Gates record to, that was held by Ali and Robinson. But did that make Tyson greater than those two guys? Absolutely not. He's nowhere greater than those guys. As much as I like Tyson, as much as I admire him, but we have to call for what it is. He's nowhere near as accomplished as Robinson or Ali. That's a fact. Okay? Yeah, he's the highest grossing fighter of all time. Yes, that's no question. Floyd is the highest paid fighter of all time. But before Floyd, as I mentioned, Mike Tyson was the highest grossing fighter of all time. At that point, before Oscar De La Hoya broke that record, at one point, Evander Holyfield was one of the top 5 highest grossed paid fighters of all time. But does that make De La Hoya and Evander Holyfield greater than Archie Moore, Muhammad Ali, and Joe Louis? Or Sugar Ray Robinson, by that matter, or Benny Leonard? Does it make it greater than those guys? No, absolutely not. But Evander is a little bit debatable, yeah, but I wouldn't contest too much that, he's nowhere greater than Joe Louis, all right? But you guys get my point. Some of these people who defend this and we're going to say, well, Floyd did this, he did that, he beat 23 world champions. Well, guess what? Most of those world champions that he did beat were very limited, and they're not Hall of Fame caliber fighters, okay? Floyd said himself for a majority of his career that he's going to pick who he wants to fight, how he wants to fight them, and when he wants to fight them, okay? He always fought opposition that was so limited. They didn't have the reach advantage over him, and they didn't have any bot skills whatsoever to save their lives to compete against him, okay? He ducked many prime fighters like Paul Williams and Antonio Margarito. Yes, Antonio Margarito. We can go back and forth about this, okay? Let me tell you something about that. When Floyd was asked to fight Antonio Margarito after he beat Judah, he was going to get the biggest payday of his career, and that was $8 million, right? Floyd turned it down. He turned it down for numerous reasons. He cited a hand injury, yada, yada, yada. But he promised Margarito that he would give him the fight that he was asked for. But guess what Floyd did? He didn't take the Margarito fight as he promised. So what did he do? He decided to go after Carlos Baldomir instead, the weakest linear champion that I could think of in history, all right? And guess how much Floyd got paid for that fight? Because Floyd said the reason why he took that fight was because he felt that he got paid more to fight Baldomir, which was a much less risk than fight Margarito, than if he had fought Margarito, which that turned out to be a lie because he actually got paid $8 million to fight Baldomir. If he had got to fight Margarito at the time when Floyd was the IBF champion, he could have fought Margarito for the WBO title, which was at the time was about to be recognized. It would have been a unification bout, but Floyd turned it down because he knew that was a much riskier fight. He didn't want to go through that, and the fact that Margarito had the reach advantage over him You know, the bricks are not whatsoever. The fact is that Margarita, we can't prove that he used bricks back then. All right. Even so, Margarita already suffered losses before that whole situation came about, before he could have got the Floyd fight. So we can go ahead and go back to history. You can say what you want about that. But needless to say, Floyd didn't take the fight. And the same thing with Winky Wright. When he called out guys like Costa Zoo, he supposedly called out Costa Mayor. I don't think he did. Shane Mosley. But, you know, I could go on and on about this. The fact is that he ducked Shane Mosley in 99 himself when Shane asked him to come up to 135 and fight him. And then Shane ducked the fight when he was asked about fighting him again after beating Fernando Vargas the second fight with the tooth comment. All right, I get that. All right. The fact is that Floyd himself didn't when he won the 154 title, he never defended that title on 3 separate occasions. Why didn't he defend that title after he beat, when he beat Cotto, when he beat De La Hoya for the title? He immediately vacated after he beat De La Hoya. He beat Canelo Alvarez for the unified light middleweight title, 154 title. Never defended him for 2 years. Held that division hostage when guys like Angelo Lard couldn't get a shot when he was a mandatory. When some of you said that Lard was a nobody, he doesn't deserve the shot. But yet, these are the same people who defend Lard with the Golovkin situation. Wow. It's kind of weird how this works out, right? He held the division for 2 years. He never defended that title. And don't give me that Marcos Maidana crap, because Maidana wasn't even rated when he fought, wasn't rated at light middleweight. All right? The fact that he defended against Maidana in the second fight, his 147 titles were on the line as well. So I'm not going to, that 154 doesn't count. That defense doesn't count. And let me tell you why. Because I believe behind closed doors, the sanctioned bodies were pressuring Floyd to defend his titles against his mandatories. So what he did is decided to pay the sanctioning fees to satisfy their, to their satisfaction, so that he could put those titles on the line. So I'm sure he had to pay 2 separate sanctioning fees, not only for the 147 belts, but also for the 154. So that way he can get out not defending it against those 154 mandatories like Lar, for example. Duck Thurman, don't care how you guys slice or dice it, he did duck Thurman. Doesn't deny it. So that's why he had to send Errol Spence in that situation, which is a cowardly move on his part. Okay? So, I mean, why would Floyd Mayweather should be ranked number 1 pound for pound best when guys like Evander Holyfield, who went through challenges over and over again, won more titles, who actually won more titles in 2 weight classes than Floyd ever did? Wow. Interesting how that works, right? Okay? It's the fact that Evander has accomplished more in 2 weight classes than Floyd's ever done. So let's not get it twisted. Win, lose, or draw, Evander did everything. He's beaten the monsters. He's beaten more Hall of Famers than Floyd. Same thing goes for Bernard Hopkins, who actually has accomplished more than Floyd when he reigned in middleweight, who actually unified and cleaned out his division. Well, Floyd never did that when he competed in the 5 weight classes. In the 5 weight classes that he did win the world titles, he didn't defend 2 of those world titles in those 5 weight classes. So let's not get it twisted. Sugar Ray Robinson, same thing, who went on a 9-year winning streak when he was 93-1. Archie Moore. Muhammad Ali, the man who cleaned out his division twice. This is a man who went through monsters, who virtually fought every heavyweight that was there to fight, was a monster underdog against Sonny Liston at the time, who was feared that nobody wanted to fight. Okay, who was a monster underdog against George Foreman, who wiped out 2 Hall of Famers that beat Ali, Ken Norton and Joe Frazier. Walked through them. Now, how the hell Floyd Mayweather should be ranked higher than those guys? Manny Pacquiao being ranked higher than Ali? No comment. Let me talk about Pacquiao. All right, this is not sour grapes, but it is what it is. Manny Pacquiao never unified the division. Yes, he won 8 belts in 8 different weight classes. Great, that's a great feat. But he never defended 3 of those belts and those. He never defended 3 of those 5 belts. Those 3 of those 8 belts that he competed in those weight classes. Okay, never won a unification bout, never cleaned out his division, won more titles at catchweights than any other fighter in history. Unbelievable. Now, you have to take into account that the other fighters in the past, like Harry Greb and the Barbados Wilcots and the Henry Armstrongs and, whatnot, and the Sam Lankfors, they didn't have the luxury of choosing their own gloves and choosing their own venues or choosing their own ring sizes. There were times when these guys were small as hell and they had to fight guys that were close to goddamn heavyweight. There were times they had to fight 20-round fights, 25-round fights. Then after they get through a grueling, tough war, they had to fight the next week. That's how much of a career they had to go through. The Black Murders Rose members. Ezra Charles, I forgot to mention. Why isn't Ezra Charles ranked in the top 20? This is the only man out of the Black Murderers Row who became a world champion, who beat Charlie Burley, the great Charlie Burley, who beat Lloyd Marshall, who's also beat the Joey Maxims, who beat Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, come on, man. And Carlos Ortiz ranked higher than Emil Griffith and Benny Leonard and Jose Napoles. No, get me wrong. I like Carlos Ortiz. He beat Sugar Ramos and Joe Brown. I believe I give him credit for that. But other than that, nah, nowhere greater than Emil Griffith and Benny Leonard. Why is Carlos Ortiz ranked higher than them? Harry Greb, that ranked in the top 5? I don't know. Azuma Nelson ranked higher than Harry Greb? Vladimir Klitschko ranked higher than Harry Greb and Emil Griffith and Benny Leonard? Wow. Don't get me wrong. I like Azuma Nelson. I respect Klitschko. But the fact is, those guys are nowhere greater than Greb, nowhere greater than Monzon, nowhere greater than Emil Griffith, Benny Leonard, or Jose Napoles. I mean, this list is laughable. Laughable. Okay? Laughable. And back to Floyd for a second. This is another guy who said that, legacy don't pay bills, skills pay bills. I'm only in for this business to catch a check, not for legacy. This is his words, man. This is not me making it up. This is exactly what it said. That's exactly what he said. Okay? The fact that he couldn't even close out shows during the later stages of his career due to brittle hands, he knew that he couldn't give the fans their money worth, so he could only create controversy outside the ring just to get people to hate him so much to the point that they're willing to buy a ticket to see him lose. Great strategy. Yep, gotta get my hats off to him. Clap for that. But, here's the thing, man. It's just to me that, Floyd, despite what I've said about him, he did have a great career, no question about it. He did. He did fight some good opponents. But Floyd, based off this ranking system, it's very, very, very flawed here. It's based off popularity, and it's laughable that Henry Armstrong, Barbados Wilcott, and Sam Langford, which many might rank as one of the greatest of all time in the top 5, are not even listed here in the top 20. And you got Manny Pacquiao ranked higher than those guys? Wow. I mean, much as I like Bernard Hopkins, but he is nowhere greater than Henry Armstrong and Benny Leonard or Jose Napoles. I mean, that's a little debatable. But as far as, Sam Langford and Sammy McVeighs of the world and the Jack Johnsons, no. Or Mickey Walker's, no way in hell. No way in hell. I mean, come on. Oh, man. I mean, it's so laughable. I got no more words to say about this. I'm out, y'all. Peace.